My friend gave me her dresses. Let's pair them with weapons and see how I rate them. It's so swooshy. It's giving Little House on the Prairie, kind of, I feel like. It's a bit tight up here, but, like, I feel like with the crook staff it goes pretty well. I don't have, like, a long gun or something like that, but you know what? Works pretty well. 10 out of 10. Extra points for the swoosh, you know? We very much improved on the swooshiness skill, I feel like. I don't know if there's a weapon that necessarily goes with this skirt, but, like, it's so wide and open. I feel like it's exclusive a kicking skirt, but yeah. Amazing, 10 out of 10. I love the pattern and the pleats. I love pleats. All these are incredibly floofy and really cool. I feel like this one pairs well with a katana. I feel like you can draw it really well. I feel like you can get down low. No pockets on this one or the others, so I'm gonna take away points retroactively. Everything else, 9 out of 10. If you come back with pockets, 10 out of 10. I don't know if it's just because I don't know how to do the backup on this, but I feel like in this configuration, I feel like a bard. I'm ready to sing, I'm ready to give bonuses to encourage my team. The legroom isn't great, but who needs legroom when you have lung capacity? 9 out of 10, because there's no pockets. Of all the incredibly floofy ones I tried on today, I feel like this one is my favorite. It has the nice sleeves that are floofy and poofy. It has the top, which kind of fits this nice. And in terms of a weapon pairing, I'm going to say nice big sword. I don't know if it's considered a Zweihander. I don't know if it's considered a long sword or a great sword. But you know what? I'm considering it a 10 out of 10, despite the lack of pockets. It's giving Yasna Kolin humiliating a shitty patriarchal piece of shit, right?
Dear fellow leftists, I'm so fucking pissed off. As leftists, we have envisaged whether we fall in, whatever category, whatever ist you are. One thing I had hoped that we agreed on was that we would want to seize the means of production, redistribute the resources, most importantly, protect the most vulnerable, the most marginalized. Like, that's the kind of society that we envisage. And I think all of us recognize how much work that will need. It will also require a lot of sacrifice. Most importantly, it will require commitment, long-term, deep commitment, which we can only sustain through deep bonds and relationships. Now, please tell me, how does minimizing COVID, minimizing long COVID, and not wearing a mask align with this praxis? Explain that to me, please. The answer is it doesn't fucking align. Because when once in a century mass disabling event is ongoing, I take that back, there's 2 pandemics, with ongoing ecological collapse, your best response is to fucking ignore it, is to roam around unmasked. The bare minimum that you could do, you can't fucking do it. Fall off apart.
Question for you. If I show you this fruit snack, and then I move the fruit snack over here, or up here, or down here, or wherever, does the fruit snack stop existing in the moments when you can't see it? The answer is, of course, no. The fruit snack still exists. But you know this because you are not an infant or a Labrador Retriever, and so you understand object permanence. But what if this was affection, or love, or friendship? If I take those emotions and I put them out of sight, do they still exist? Sure, your partner said that they loved you yesterday, but they didn't say it today. Do they still like you? Your friends texted you every day this week, but they didn't text you today. Do they still like you? This concept is called object constancy or emotional permanence. And many people with ADHD struggle with this. For many people with ADHD, out of sight, out of mind isn't just about your keys or your left shoe. It can also be the people in our lives and the emotions we feel towards them. And that's something we don't talk about as much. I ate all the love.
Hey, you're tooting on them bagpipes, Clyde. But you said it best, there's no place to hide. What the fuck?
You don't have to earn food. Food is fuel for life. You deserve to eat even if you haven't done anything today. You don't like the way you look. You feel like you've eaten too much. You've gained weight. You're going out later. You need it to stay alive. Do not punish yourself. Your body does so much for you.
First off, bitch, mind your business. Stay aligned up and keep a good.
I didn't know whether I should post this. But if I see your hate speech, I will take it down. Such a sad waste of good paper.
Cause I'm sexy and chubby, man.
Why aren't you on a diet?
Because I like to eat. Is that such a crime?
For me, I really like corn.
What do you like about corn?
It's corn! A big corn Vietnam. It has the juice. I can't imagine a more beautiful thing. It's corn! I can tell you all about it. I mean, look at this thing. When I tried it, it got amazing thing.
You're asking me about my theories? I've waited years for someone to ask me about my theories! Hang on, I made a model!
What can you do in your everyday life to center Black people? This is the question that I asked to the members of the Educated Gang, my online membership, in a masterclass that we had the other day about authenticity and anti-racism. And the question got everyone shook because, let's be honest, have you ever heard this question? Probably never or not many times. I'm gonna tell the answers of my members at the end of this video, but do you know why this question is so important? This is literally what is going to make or break your allyship. I feel like everyone just tries to do like everyone else. What makes your allyship long-term and actually you stay committed and dedicated to it is putting your heart into it. It's putting your soul into it. You know, actually being interested in it. You know, actually bringing a smile on your face. And also prioritizing your mental health, because allyship is not about doing stuff 24/7. And you don't always have to consume stuff about Black people that's related to racism, trauma, immigration, slavery, because let's be honest, that is not what Black people are all about. Learning about our culture, learning about our stories can also be fun, and I just feel like the media has really portrayed us in a way where it's not even attractive to be interested in Black people anymore. That's why I recommend Black movies and Black books, so people can be attracted and feel joyful, happy, positive about learning more about Black stories and culture. And so the members of the Educated Gang actually said so many answers, like, I listen to music, maybe I should try and listen to more Black artists. Someone said, oh, I'm really interested in languages, so I'm gonna start learning more about the different kinds of languages and dialect in the African continent. And see, this is where you will shine, because this is something that you're originally interested in. True allyship centers Black people. If you'd like to be part of the Educated Gang, definitely check out the comments below or my link in bio.
Someone just told me that I was ableist because they see disability as a deficit, and they said that's the medical model and I should look up the social model. What the heck is that? Yeah, so the medical model has a dark history. It developed from a white supremacist colonialist worldview that defines normal as healthy, and anything that is divergent from how they define normal is a deficit that should be ostracized, purged, or cured. And the social model? Well, the social model argues that disability is a valuable part of the human experience, and that it's society's ableism that actually disables people. I don't get it. All right, look at it this way. Let's flip the Superman story. Instead of Krypton being destroyed, in this version, Earth gets destroyed. That doesn't take too much imagination. So a human refugee gets sent to Krypton, and I'm using some creative license here to deviate from canon, where everyone on Krypton has the same powers as Superman does on Earth, except for our human. Oh. Right? So imagine a society built around beings who could leap tall buildings in a single bound. Yeah, so the humans like, where's the steps? And the Kryptonians are like, we just hop up there. Why are you being so needy? More powerful than a locomotive. Why can't I open this door? And they're like, you can't even open this little 1,000-pound door? Why are you so lazy? Faster than a speeding bullet. Why were you late for work again, Shelley? Well, Jarell, like I told you before, I can't fly. I tried to get a ride from Ecto last week, and he almost liquefied my body, accelerating too fast. I could get here on time, but your society never invented cars or planes, and you don't even have sidewalks because you don't need them. I can't keep you employed with an attitude like that. You are a total drain on society. Like, how can you think to contribute anything with your limitations? And we disabled people hear those kinds of things all the time. Dang. Now imagine roughly 25% of the Krypton population were Earth refugees, and were treated this way simply because society was built for the Kryptonians' abilities and was inaccessible to human abilities. Humans would be seen by many as a lesser species that just consumed valuable resources without contributing, but not because humans didn't want to contribute. Krypton society would probably just view them as needing to be ostracized, purged, or cured of their humanity. Whoa.
God, are you kidding me? Where do you think I learned all this shit? It's just a cigarette, and it cannot be that bad. Girl, you know.
Note in my daughter's lunchbox every day. That's daughter's singular possessive, not daughter's multiple. The other daughters eat school lunch and I don't have a mechanism to deliver the note without the box anyway. She saves the notes, only thing that comes home in her lunchbox every day, so I'm keeping them for her. But every note has the same format. A little note, love mom, and a terrible drawing. I have to label the drawing so she knows what she's looking at, but sometimes I leave little jokes. One day I actually wrote a joke and she said it wasn't funny, so the next day I drew her a picture of her telling me it wasn't funny. And there was the day that she caught me writing her note, so I drew a picture of her catching me writing her note. But today she had an appointment an hour away, so I packed her lunchbox so she could eat it on the ride home. And on the ride home, she opens her lunchbox to eat and immediately says, "You didn't write me a note." I didn't think to write a note because we were together. I didn't realize how much it meant to her. So I think tomorrow's drawing is going to be her eating in the car with a chat bubble that says, "Where's my note?" Anyway, you don't get to pick which little things mean a lot to your kids, and I think that's pretty neat. Okay, bye.
Hey TikTok, I didn't want anything. I just wanted you to see a disabled body. That's it, that's all.
I got a sign that say lames can't hang here. That's eyelashes, blank stare.
Troy and Abed in the morning. Troy and Abed in the morning. Troy and Abed in stop motion. Troy and Abed in the morning. Troy and Abed's new apartment. Evil Troy and evil Abed. Troy and Abed sewn together. Troy and Abed being normal. Troy and Abed in the morning.
Troy and Abed and Annie in the morning.
Troy and Abed in the morning.
Chase a chick, never chase a bitch. Chase no bitch. Mask on, fuck it, mask on. Mask on, fuck it, mask.
Get yourself co-workers who will walk off the job when you're wrongfully fired.
At this time, the partners at Adult Chip are going to be staging a walkout in response to corporate unfair labor practices and targeted anti-union retaliation against their workers. We do apologize for the inconvenience. If you have an order and need to get a refund, please speak with our store manager.
Go Besties
The
go.
rest of us will be leaving the store at this time.
Hamilton wrote the other 51. How do you ride like you're running out of time? Right day and night like you're running out of time. Every day you fight like you're running out of time. Like you're running out of time. Are you running out of time? How do you ride like tomorrow won't arrive? How do you?
What if it was purple? Up first we have. Let's see it purple.
So a lot of third culture kids have this shared experience of never feeling fully accepted by one side or the other. Even though I was born and spent a majority of my life in the States, I always had to prove I was American enough. And despite Hindi being my first language and having lived in India, I'm labeled as an ABCD or NRI. And this continues now that I share recipes influenced by my heritage. But as an adult now, I've realized that being a hybrid product of our multiple environments comes with its advantages. And for me, it's been by colliding those two worlds through food. And that's also why I don't think my recipes are authentic, because authenticity is just the sphere we've created that limits our creativity and freedom in the kitchen. And while it's still important to give recognition to dishes you were inspired by, the best cooks in your family all make staple dishes in their unique ways and pull from their past experiences. So maybe in my city I was exposed to amazing Mexican food like ensalada de nopalitos, and let's say I didn't have access to cactus, but the texture reminds me of watermelon rinds and the flavors remind me of turbuz sabjis from home, so I temper those familiar spices to season it with. So no, this dish doesn't exactly belong to one group, but in the words of Hannah Montana, you get the best of both worlds. And that's how I approach my day-to-day cooking, where I don't really make anything authentically.
Oh, he coming off way too pushy. I hope he don't think he was getting this pussy. He like his bitches psychotic. Sit on his face and explain why I'm toxic. How you talk shit but ain't backing it up?
Okay, which Avenger would fall down the outright pipeline?
All of them. They're all cops, okay? Black Panther and Captain America get a pass, but the rest of them...
I sit and watch another Workaholics episode, or I'm on YouTube watching vlogs or some top 10s. I'm so exhausted, so damn exhausted.
What are your thoughts on all these Republican politicians getting investigated right now?
The FBI should recategorize themselves as the Federal Biden Infatuation Agency because their motives have turned from criminal and completely pivoted into political motives. The FBI needs to call their administrator, say, get in your vans and pull up to this gas station, investigate these prices. Outrageous. I can afford them personally. I do business things that do hurt other people, but besides the point, these prices, I don't know. They're his fault. I get it. Thanks, Biden. Look, one thing I want to get straight. Candace Owens, she's a 10.
Don't watch me do it, close your eyelids.
Normalize being hot, having no social skills, and making literally 0 sense. Actually, don't even normalize it, sexualize it. It's sexy that I'm completely unhinged and incoherent. Thank you.
Don't lick that up 'cause the beat's so cold. Go. And every time he leave me alone, he always tell me he miss it. He wanna F-F-R-E-A-K-A-K-A-K.
I love sharing my Samoan fire knife skills and making these videos on TikTok for you to enjoy. But I can only do it safely because I have practiced and built up my skills for over 20 years. You should never copy the things that I do in my videos because you don't have the training or the safety measures that I have that keep me safe. But this video is about you, not me. Before you do anything you see online, you need to think really carefully about whether it's safe. So this is what you need to do. You need to first stop, then think about the risks. Ask yourself what could go wrong. Could you or others get hurt? Then decide. If it's not safe or you're not sure, then don't do it. It's not worth taking chances with your safety or those around you. Finally, act. If you see something that doesn't look safe, report it. So thank you guys all again for all the love and support. And please, before you guys try anything dangerous you see, please just stop, think, decide, and act. Choo!
As I lay myself to sleep, I pray to Lord.
Abre, 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 ábreme las piernas, eres tú si ayer espera. No soy golfa ni ramera, ni soy puta mujerzuela, no soy zorra, no soy perra, solo soy mujer.
A lot of people who support capitalism will often bring up points like competition is good. That's why capitalism is good, because it allows for competition. Except for the little fact, well, that's not always the case. And I'm not trying to allude to monopoly capitalism, like the consolidation of different industries. I forgot until this week that non-competes exist. If you don't know what that is, if you go to work for a petty bourgeois tradesman, whether that be painting or carpet cleaning, they will make you sign a non-compete agreement, which essentially states that you, for a certain duration of the time that you are employed or after you are employed, are not allowed to start your own LLC with that same type of business or within a certain mileage of that business. I don't know why, but I find this concept so bizarre.
Hit you with the blink. Hit you with the blink. Hit you with the tricks.
I was gonna make a funny joke about this, about like, haha, that's actually extremely liberal. But actually, I wanted to talk about this because some of y'all would be really unhappy to learn about who people like you would have been 20, 50, 100 years ago. You're the white moderate. The person that doesn't believe in throwing gay people in jail but just thinks they shouldn't do it around other people and shouldn't ask for equal rights. The kind of person who thinks that we should abolish slavery but that black people shouldn't be considered equal to everyone else. Only ever comfortable with social change when it doesn't actually threaten the established norms. You think it's fine to ridicule people that challenge the social structures in place because deep down, you don't really think that things need to change. You don't really care about liberation. You care about not being seen as bigoted.
First off, let me say this shit again. Damn. Walk down with Lil Denny, that's my fucking evil twin.
Look at that hair. My goodness, that is wacky. Did you straighten her hair today? Oh, it's naturally straight. Wow. Is she mixed with something? My neighbor down the street has a daughter whose hair is also straight. And this ethnic woman has been teaching her how to do it, and it's been very helpful. Well, it's soft. And it's a beautiful color, you know, it's nice and brown.
Hey kid, you want some money for college? College? Why would I want to go to college? Everyone knows if you don't want to be poor your whole life, you gotta go to college. Really? Could they put it on the posters in your high school if it wasn't true? Ah, gee, that is a good point. I guess I should probably go. You said you got some money for me? Well, I'll make you a loan, but don't worry, when you get that degree, you're gonna be making so much bank, you'll be able to pay me back with interest, no problem. Ah, gee, thanks, mister.
10 years later.
Excuse me, sir, you remember when you gave me a big loan and told me that if I went to college, I'd make enough money to pay you back? Oh, yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, well, I did that, and I've been in the workforce for like 6 years now, but I'm still not making nearly enough money to pay down my principal on this loan. What gives? Well, you probably just picked a bad degree. Excuse me? Yeah, everyone knows a lot of college degrees don't do much for you financially, so if you pick the wrong one, you're just out of luck. Everyone knows this. Yeah, what did you do? Pick based on your interests? What you wanted to do with your life? That's on you, buddy. On me? I was 18 years old when you convinced me to go to college and gave me tens of thousands of dollars to do so with the promise that I'd make enough money afterwards to pay you back. If it all depended on what degree I got, then that should have been a condition for the loan, but it wasn't, and that feels like predatory lending. Well, I don't see it that way, and I'm the one who makes the rules, so keep forking it over. No way, man. I'm not paying anymore. Okay, yeah, well, you could do that, but before you do, I would just ask you 2 questions. Do you like housing, and have you heard of a credit score?
It's like Tinder, but only 20% of people get accepted? Huh. Once again, segregation makes everything better. Thanks to this app, I can finally have a girl that I can brag about to my yachting friends, who doesn't judge me by the color of my skin, but by the contents of my Forbes article. Yo, bro, check this. You can match with people based off luxury brands. This is like the Tom Haverford of dating app. $30 subscription is fine for me. Nobody's forcing you to use it. Doesn't matter what app it is. Any mention of Christian values, Republican, MAGA, conservatism is an automatic swipe for me. I'm sure the fact that it doesn't list the average annual income of its female users is a complete coincidence. Is there a dating app only for poor people? Yes, Craigslist.
Organizing people around
like that,
revolution here.
That fucking imperialist propaganda, anytime you agree with that should be all the way down here on things that you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Like that should never come up.
Don't do it.
What do you mean?
I recently stumbled across Abby Shapiro's dating advice, and this video just gets 5 times funnier when you keep in mind that she's Ben Shapiro's sister.
One thing that I learned early on in my dating career was I didn't want to date a guy. I didn't want to end up with a guy who felt like he had to win every argument. There are some guys who really just think that they need to be the smartest one in the room all the time, and you can never get into just a discussion. Everything turns into a debate. So I knew very quickly that I never wanted to end up with a guy like
fuck with you. You little stupid ass bitch, I ain't fucking with you. You little dumb ass bitch, I ain't fucking with you.
Toxic relationships, they don't make you happy. Like, we studied it.
You see, what's dangerous about these types of generalizations is that it's not about you critiquing a culture that values romantic relationships over friendships and other relationships, but that it is in fact you trying to reinforce this very colonial, white way of thinking that happiness and our worth only comes from the self. Being in relationships, romantic or not, is not the opposite of self-reflection and self-accountability. It's not either or. And the thing is, when you say we research this, don't say we, because it's not we, it's white people. White people do research on other white people and then try to conduct what they think is objective data and then generalize what they think are the experiences of everyone. Not only do relationships bring us joy, but they help us heal our relationship trauma. They help us as marginalized people get our needs met in community. But instead, y'all spend your time calling everyone codependent and romanticizing loneliness.
So there's a creator in here that will like emphasize her love handles, and I always, when I wear jeans, hold them up like this to cover them. But I kind of think that this is hot.
Ways to push a shopping cart as a wheelchair user. The one handle cart, one handle wheel. Effective. The wiggle.
sometimes you can't set a rule until someone breaks it. The other day I had to make a rule that involves asking for permission to use body wash. My daughter was taking a bath, decided she wanted a bubble bath. But I don't have bubble bath. What I do have is body wash, which can be used to make bubbles. So I pour some body wash in, do that thing to make the bubbles happen, and then I set the body wash back on the side of the tub. And I walked away for less than 2 minutes. I walk back in, find my daughter holding the body wash in the middle of bubble mount, and half the bottle is gone. I walk back out. My first thought was, oh, she's in trouble. My second thought was, no, she's not. She just watched me do it, and I didn't tell her she couldn't. Walk back in. She's as happy as a happy clam. I said, you having fun, bud? She said, yeah. I said, can I have the body wash, please? And she gave it to me. Holding the bottle, I said, darling, we got to talk about the body wash. And she's like, why? And I said, you use too much. I said, next time you want more bubbles, you have to ask me. We can talk about it. I explained why. We had to talk about it then, too. And then I had her repeat the new rule back to me. That's something I always do with new rules. Why? Because it uses a different part of your brain to say something than to hear it. It helps them remember. Now, don't quote me on that. I don't know if it's science, but it sounds like it could be true. Anyway, sometimes the rules I have to set surprise me. But if my kid has done something I don't approve of for the first time, they're not going to get in trouble. We're just going to talk about it for the first time. Okay, bye.
I'm not a girl!
The other woman will always cry herself to sleep. The other woman will never have his love to keep.
Why do you not like fat people? Why don't you take care of yourself? Why don't you care about yourself?
So you equate fatness to somebody not caring about themselves. Let me tell you something. I barely drink water. I don't eat vegetables. I don't work out. Since the pandemic has started, my diet has been consistent of fried food, soda, iced coffee, and for the past few months, my diet has consisted of the large vanilla sweet cream iced coffees from Jack in the Box, the supreme croissant sandwich, or the French toast, and I might get me a cinnamon roll from Whataburger if I'm feeling spicy. I haven't had a regular shit in I don't know how long, and I keep pushing off the colonoscopy appointment that I should actually go to. I hate to say it, but I really don't give a damn about my health. But I find it so interesting that nobody critiques me the same way that y'all critique plus size people. You want to know what I get told? Oh, you have the perfect body. You have my dream body. Do you work out? I don't work out. I don't eat healthy. I don't do anything that I probably should be doing. Your problem isn't what a plus size person is or is not doing. You do not like the way that they physically look. Because if this was really you not liking people, which is still weird because they don't care about themselves, that's not isolated to plus size people. I am a thinner person who does not care about herself, her health, or her body. I'm pretty sure people like you assume I do because of the way that I appear. So shut the hell up.
I've rejected affection for years and years. Now I have it, and damn it, it's kind of weird. He tells me I'm pretty, don't know how to respond. I tell him that he's pretty too, can I say that?
2 plastic Easter eggs filled with mung beans. 2 Christmas tree ornaments filled with jingle bells. 2 wads of masking tape tied together with a pink ribbon.
He's just standing there! Menacingly!
Take a look at how this Nigerian creator is using sarcasm to educate her followers about Africa. Charity Akezie started getting strange questions last year in her comments, like, do you have clean water?
Somebody was like, you're asking me to visit Africa? Where would I get water?
And that was it for me. I said, okay, good. They've opened the door.
Like you all know, there's no water in Africa. Women and girls take turns to spit into these drums, these very huge, large drums. And then they'll keep spitting until the drum is full.
Some commenters don't even know Africa is a continent.
Africa is developed, Africa is big, Africa is beautiful, Africa is not a country.
She uses sarcasm to show how ridiculous these comments are.
Africa is not a continent, Africa is a country. We have 54 towns and villages, and our capital city is Wakanda.
With more than 1,000 languages, the 54 countries of Africa are barely studied in US schools. Even considering how much African countries shaped the cultural context of the United States, US schools often don't focus on achievements in Africa. But Charity thinks this ignorance comes from people's homes as well as schools.
They reduced a whole continent into an object of mockery by saying that there are children starving in Africa, finish your plate, you know? What about your next door neighbor who is starving?
So Charity is fighting back at the mockery by mocking the stereotypes.
Africa is a very big jungle filled with poor people. So not all of us can actually afford to live in thatched huts.
Charity says humor is the best way to learn, and a study at the University of Pennsylvania and Ohio State backs this up. Researchers found that news and humor stimulates greater activity in brain regions associated with memory.
When I make my videos, I truly don't laugh, because to me, it's like I'm being serious.
The Sephora Best Skin Ever Foundation. This foundation comes in 50 shades, big purr, and this is the swatch of the darkest shade. I had to pick it up. This is shade 68 and neutral. And this foundation was only $20. $20! A mid-price foundation for dark skin girls, but is it really worth the $20? Like, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna go in with like a baby pump like this. Okay, let's blend this out. Okay. I was a little hesitant at first. However, this foundation literally does look like skin, but I think we need darker shades. I'm not gonna lie. I'm dark, but I know there are people that are darker than me. So baby, the finish is gorgeous. Like, come on, skin. But you know what, Sephora collection, I will give it to you this time. I feel like for the price point of this foundation and the finish of it, it's worth it. I still do think they need darker shades though, but we move.
Kim Kardashian and the UFC didn't invent boxer braids, and I'm here to talk about the actual hairstyle and put it into its historical context. To be clear, these are cornrows, not boxer braids, KKW braids, or birthday braids. This style differs from the braid because it isn't always formed by intertwining 3 strands of hair that hang from the scalp. That way of braiding hair is also a part of other cultures, like for example Native American culture or even Scandinavian culture. But cornrows specifically are a hairstyle that Black women have literally been wearing for centuries. Depictions of women with cornrows have been found in Stone Age paintings in the Tassili Plateau of the Sahara dating back to at least 3000 BC. In ancient Egypt, men and women wore cornrows or simple braids, and they were often adorned with gold thread and other delicacies. Different types of hairstyles actually symbolize social rank, so warriors and kings were identified by their braided hairstyles. This type of hairstyle then spread from the Nile Valley throughout the rest of Africa. It's still actually largely worn throughout West Africa, Sudan, and the Horn of Africa, and can signify one's age, religious beliefs, kinship, marital status, and even wealth. But I'm just getting started, so stay tuned for part 2. Cornrows, not boxer braids, have actually been in fashion for a long time. The term cornrows originated somewhere between the 16th and 19th century in colonial America and was named after the agricultural fields that many enslaved people worked in because they had a similar pattern. In the Caribbean, for instance, they're still sometimes referred to as cane rows, linking back to work in the sugarcane fields. Before that, though, this style was likely called kolese, which means a creature without legs in the Yoruba language. In fact, the general term for cane/cornrows in Nigeria is irundidi, community, and I find that absolutely wonderful. But anyways, the enslaved wore cornrows as a simple way to wear their hair during the week, and it was also considered the best option for those who were allowed inside plantation houses and expected to keep a tidy appearance. What's particularly interesting though is that cornrows were also used as a means of communicating in code. Written messages or maps could get in the wrong hands, so cornrows were the perfect solution. A particular number of braids could indicate possible escape routes or even be used to signal a meetup time without drawing scrutiny. On top of that, they were also used to hide gold fragments or seeds in order to give the wearer some nourishment if ever they were able to escape. But I'm not done yet, so stay tuned for part 3. When millions of Africans were brutally ripped from their homes and shipped to the New World, their heads were shaved as a way to take away their cultural identity. But cornrows helped enslaved Africans put up small acts of rebellion and resistance by not only allowing them to keep their heritage close, but also providing a discreet way to transfer information. This is actually best documented in Colombia, where Bencos Biojo, a royal captured from the Bisagos Islands by the Portuguese, escaped slavery, built a Palenque village in northern Colombia, created an intelligence network, and came up with the idea of having women make maps and deliver messages through their cornrows. And so, through time, cornrows have remained popular amongst Africans and the Black diaspora, and have come to symbolize so much more than just aesthetics. They're also a symbol of heritage, community, and strength. So while anyone can rock this hairstyle, let's not buy into the idea that this trend is new, because it's been around for a very long time.
How did men go from this to this? We used to live for adventure and excitement.
Can you people please read a book? I mean, like, read any book ever about the past. I got a bunch back here. You can see them. See, I got books. Lots of books. Any of these will be useful to understanding that men in the past did not just love going to war, did not just love going to put themselves in harm's way, and that I'm sure that if you pluck someone out of like 19th century America and said, would you rather spend a life doing hard, backbreaking labor, or would you rather watch people do plays for you on a screen, they would take the latter every time.
2 plastic Easter eggs filled with mung beans. 2 Christmas tree ornaments filled with jingle bells. 2 wads of masking tape tied together with a pink ribbon.
Now you know. Yo, slick, blow.
It's driving me out of my mind. That's why it's hard.
Just when you thought that J.K. Rowling could not get any more petty, she just released a book that is 600 pages longer than Dune to justify transphobia. No, seriously. The book is called The Ink Black Heart. It is 1,024 pages long, and it centers around a character who gets canceled online by transgender people. It gets worse than that, though. She wrote the book under the pseudonym Robert Galbraith. Robert Galbraith is a famous psychologist who is famous for practicing conversion therapy and for his racism. It's an interesting choice, to say the least. I find it particularly funny that J.K. Rowling writes this book about a transphobe getting canceled off the internet after a couple of trans people stand in protest outside of her castle gates. Meanwhile, actual transgender people are being doxxed, harassed, threatened, and chased all the way around the world by TERF-supported sites like Kiwi Farms. Just look up Keffels right now. On a literary level, supposedly the book is almost unreadable and composed in large sections entirely of tweets. It's really sad how far she has fallen.
Come here. Yeah, come. Bitch, yeah.
You'd never know it, but in America, Black people were major players in the popularity of ice cream. Before there were mechanical ice cream makers, Black people were the ice cream makers, making ice creams, custards, and other treats for the United States elite. James Hemings, Sally Hemings' brother, was Thomas Jefferson's personal chef. Hemings studied in France and brought a variety of dishes back to the States and put his own spin on them, one of them being ice cream. He would cook for Jefferson's party guests, and ice cream quickly became a must-have delicacy on the East Coast. Soon after, Augustus Jackson, also known as the father of ice cream, launched an ice cream business in Philadelphia and perfected a lighter, eggless recipe. His business spread to Black-owned parlors throughout the North, growing the popularity of the dessert even further. And Alfred Crayley invented the ice cream scoop. While working at an ice cream counter in a drugstore, he noticed people had difficulty scooping ice cream, so he invented a mechanical scoop with a trigger to help release and drop the ice cream into the dish. He received a patent for the tool in 1897, making him the first black inventor to hold a solo patent.
Tasty steak sandwich, give me a piece, please. There are some people who are confused by mistrust of medical institutions. Medical institutions have a history of fucked up practices on women and people of color, misdiagnosing mental disorders, not believing nor providing treatment to patients, the existence of the Tuskegee experiment. I could go on. Modern medicine carries some of these traditions. Many people find that going to the doctor to not be taken seriously is a waste of time. Not to mention that it's a goddamn gauntlet for a trans person to find gender-affirming care. The system of accountability is not working. Doctors are usually allowed to act on their biases without any consequence. You should trust medical professionals in a broad sense, but to think that there are no problems with modern medical institutions is to be in a place of privilege. I want to eat that.
How did men go from this to this? We used to live for adventure and excitement.
So I don't really care what this dork is saying about his little performative masculinity skit. So he's trying to show everyone he's a real man. I mean it, guys, seriously. Look, I compared Normandy to a guy in a dress. Newsflash, buddy. When those guys survived Normandy and came back home, some of them put on dresses. Yeah, drag queens aren't a new thing. Nor is just a man wearing a dress, as many of the people who have stitched you have shown. Gosh, it's crazy weird that you called the beaches of Normandy an exciting adventure. Maybe play less Call of Duty, champ. Now, I don't consider myself a man, but I don't think that matters to folks like him. So now I'm gonna show you when I was at war and then a little thirst trap of when I put on a dress, so stay tuned. Why, there I am in sunny Afghanistan trying to do my best war face. And here I am at a much happier time in my life doing the Mean Girls dance. Yeah, don't I look amazing? Bonus for the trap!
Listen, the girls that get it, get it. The girls that get it, get it. And the ones who don't, you know, they just don't. And all the little white MBs who try to like lecture me about it, like, you can't be that, or try to give me advice like, well, have you considered being like a demigirl or hush. Hush, okay? Shut up. I'm non-binary and I'm a black woman. You don't have to understand it. Just hush.
I don't know. Nobody knows. That's the fuck of it all.
In one of my classes yesterday, we were learning corporate management strategies for diversity and inclusion. And in the textbook reading, it told us about a Harvard study where they took 2 sets of job applications. The 2 sets of applications were identical to each other, except one group included experience being involved with LGBTQ+ advocacy groups in college, and the other one didn't. The results of the experiment showed that those who were open about their involvement with LGBTQ+ advocacy received 60% fewer call-ins for interviews than the groups that didn't. Similar studies have shown discrimination against those with ethnic-sounding names or those who include motherhood or activities that are associated with motherhood on their applications. Which makes me wonder, is there any job application process that we could implement that would reduce, if not eradicate, this sort of discrimination?
Neurodivergent love languages in 15 seconds. Parallel play. Parallel play is simply when you do separate activities in the same space together, like one person's watching TV, the other person's playing their phone, or reading a book, or whatever.
Let's talk about another form of genocide. I am registered as an Inuk. These are my sons, and their father is Ojibwe. The government only allows you to register for one. I chose to register my sons as Ojibwe, so they are considered First Nation. In the process of doing this, my children have lost their Inuk identity, even though I'm their mother. Make it make sense.
Periods don't exist. And no, I don't mean punctuation. I mean the whole menstrual myth. The idea that once a week, every month for their entire adult lives, women bleed from their genitals. I just don't believe it. It's a complete hoax. They just want chocolate. They want attention. It's BS. My genitals have never bled. And I know lots of women, and I have never seen their genitals bleed. And therefore, it just doesn't exist. There might be one or two women out there who have experienced bleeding, but it's a small number, and it's by choice. They could stop bleeding if they wanted to. They like the attention. Everything I just said was complete and utter bull. I wanted you to hear how it sounds when white people claim that systemic racism doesn't exist because it doesn't happen to them.
That's actually hilarious.
Women's spaces were not designed to keep men out, they were designed to keep women inside. Let's talk about it. We'll focus on bathrooms because there's way too much to talk about if I don't pick a struggle. I was so close to including a whole analysis of women in the commons, pulling out Silvia Federici, but nobody has time for that. I think bathrooms in particular make a particularly easy topic to talk about because they were really only invented as we understand them right after the Civil War. Before that, there were outhouses, the occasional chamber pots, and often people just went outside. No woman wore underwear before a certain point. They just went out there and they just went down. That's what everybody did. And even when bathrooms were created, with indoor plumbing, most of them were much more similar to the way you might think of a porta potty. And every single one of them was gender neutral, though not everyone based on class and race could use them. However, due to illnesses like cholera starting to spread, many public health officials and scientists became heavily concerned with the bathrooms, and rightfully so. And oftentimes that meant contemporary analysis of gender, class, and race played out in the ways in which they designed our public spaces. At this time, women were seen as especially vulnerable, specifically white women, of the wealthier variety, but many of them were essentially sequestered within their homes. Many of these laws were so restrictive that rich white women used to dress up like streetwalkers, for lack of a better word, in order to have access to the outdoors, if not dress up like men. Some potties. With the rise of industrialization at the same time we saw first-wave feminism coming about, many public reformers, including a lot of women, started advocating for specifically gendered bathrooms for women, especially in factory spaces. This goes along with the creation of women's cars on trains, for example, which were only accessible to white women. There were not a separate space for black women in those spaces too. There was a whole case about it. It's written about in The Accident of Color. I'll put it on the screen. There was a case of a wealthy Creole woman who was moved out of the women's car and put into the car designed for black folks, which used a very different word that I won't use. The justification for the creation of these spaces was essentially to protect women from men, but very specifically men who are immigrants, poor, black men especially. They used the term masher as kind of a catch-all term for anyone who would harass a woman. It was one of the many ways in which first-wave feminists basically fully identified with their assigned role as vulnerable and weak, and many of the wealthier women projected that onto poor and working-class women as well. That's a part of the reason so many of them were into things like eugenics and prohibition. And they often explicitly included racial rhetoric in the ways in which they spoke about this. Though there were several first-wave feminists who did not feel this way, including many black women, but also a woman named Jessie Daniel Ames who operated in the South, who made the very convincing argument, I think, that the oppression of white women in the United States was explicitly tied to the oppression of black men. She essentially ran a campaign saying "not in my name" when it came to lynching, but made the argument that the imagined dangerousness of black men specifically was a part of the reason why white women had their freedoms to move about the world restricted, which I think is an important analysis for the Karens of the present. I'll post a part 2. I am so sorry. Let's jump ahead to the second wave. Many spaces that were designed in society were designed to keep women from entering them, something I would argue still happens today. And a lot of second wave feminist activism, especially among white women, was about this particular problem, trying to break down the idea that a woman's place was in the home, the old bedroom and kitchen situation. And many men still justified this by claiming that they were protecting women. But much of second wave activism was quite successful. Many women began to enter the workforce, which a lot of feminists were critical of at the time. That's a whole other mess. But not long before this, there was a whole other bathroom debate on whether to allow black women to enter the same bathrooms that white women were using, with a lot of white women clutching their pearls in a very similar way to the way they do with the trans conversations today, arguing that they would be subject to massive amounts of violence if this ever occurred, and argued that these women's spaces needed to be protected for the poor, innocent white women who went inside. And around that same time, some trans women were starting to become visible in society, and there was all kinds of feminist debate about them. Many second-wave feminists were extremely trans exclusionary, but many of them weren't. Andrea Dworkin and Catherine McKinnon, most famous for being against pornography, were completely trans-inclusive in their politics. As time went on, the feminist movement became weaker, and we get more into the present-day kind of feminisms. There's a lot that went on in the 90s, but I grew up on BuzzFeed feminism, much of it being of the girl boss variety, what Angela Davis calls bourgeois feminism, the more contemporary lean-in feminism that doesn't necessarily challenge the social structure that places women where we are in the first place. And I definitely include myself in women, though I realize some people who may come across this will not. To those people, I say, okay, I feel super invalidated right now. Guess I'll go cry in a bathroom. Oh wait, you gate-kept all those. And when we're talking about bathrooms in public, for me personally, though I speak for no one else, it's not that I want to use women's bathrooms, it's that I want to use bathrooms at all. While I personally haven't been misgendered in public in years, I remember the days where I didn't pass, and just how uncomfortable that could be, and oftentimes I gatekeep bathrooms from myself, specifically to make cis women more comfortable. But looking the way that I do means that using a bathroom designed for men would not be safe for me, which is why I personally advocate for a much more gender-neutral bathroom space with single occupancy stalls available for everyone, extending the right to privacy as far as it can go, but also to make spaces more accessible to people with caregivers of different genders who are disabled, like men who have children who are young girls who are trying to take them to the bathroom in public without making anyone uncomfortable. Family restrooms have been a part of our lexicon for years, and in spaces that don't gender their bathroom, this problem completely ceases to exist. Sex-segregated bathrooms are also the primary reason that women have a longer wait time for restrooms. Because of the availability of urinals, men's bathrooms have twice the available places to use, which is the primary reason why people are able to move through them much faster. Adding gender-neutral bathrooms means everyone has an extra place to go. That is to say, almost everyone. People experiencing homelessness are often denied access to any restroom at all, often in the exact same cities where public urination is illegal. Again, I'm doing a part 3. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you for sticking around. The last thing I want to say is that I can fully empathize with a lot of the women who are really concerned about their safety in public as someone whose safety has been regularly threatened in public. While I can't empathize with people gatekeeping the restroom from people like myself, meaning the restroom at all, not just women's spaces, there's one more thing I want people to notice. The idea that assigned male at birth people are dangerous and that women must be protected from them is the exact same ideology that rich white men were using to deny the rights of women to move around in public in the 1890s. It's patriarchy repackaged as feminism. And the idea that men are dangerous and can't control themselves is the same old boys will be boys nonsense that's been around forever. I can tell you from experience that boys will not always be boys. I believe that men are fully capable of being accountable for their own behavior. And I believe firmly that sex-segregated bathrooms are one of the many ways in which, patriarchal culture is projected onto the world. The safety created by women's spaces is an illusion to protect primarily cis white women from imagined boogeymen, who interestingly always end up being marginalized people and never their brothers, husbands, and friends. When in reality, my sister in Hecate, may she rest in peace. Why, Xenothrus? Why? I gotta tell you, the call is coming from inside the house. You've learned to mistake your proximity to power for power itself. When gender-critical feminists call to defend women's spaces, they never really say who's doing the defending. When if you think about it for a moment, you realize it has to mean the state, it has to mean the police, it has to mean men. None of those groups I particularly find have women's best interests at heart. The police and the state do not care about SA, and they do functionally nothing to protect women from it. A sign saying women only will not and cannot protect you. And the problem of violence against women and really anyone in public space is a complicated problem that the rhetoric about women's spaces only ever empowers. So I once again say that women's spaces were not designed to keep men out, they were designed to keep women inside. They were designed to keep women afraid of trans people, of black people, of immigrants, and really literally anyone else. There's a lot more nuance that could be added to this conversation, but I'll end by saying when I first transitioned and I started using women's spaces, I felt similarly, so I understand. I work as a tour guide, so I'm often really terrified of people on the street, but I've also learned to recognize that this vulnerability that I feel is largely a prison of my own making, a desperate attempt for me to appeal to men to protect me from other more dangerous men. But I have found the status of damsel in distress not particularly liberating. The men who want to oppress us would largely like for us to remain afraid and keep us locked in towers like princesses with little dragons on the outside, dragons that they just made up. So I'm telling you to pick up a sledgehammer and help me tear down this tower from the inside. We have been the dragons all along.
Being gay is a separate concept from being trans? Not the way I do it, buddy!
What's a history fact that just gets you choked up every time you have to tell it?
By the time Christopher Columbus got to Haiti, he was so far in debt that he had to promise his investors boats full of slaves to pay back his debts. But the problem is, due to the horrible conditions that he had them in on the ships, too many of them were dying to be able to make up for the dividends lost for his journeys around the world. And because of that, when he landed in Cacao in Haiti, home of the native Arawaks at that time, he made it a rule that everyone over the age of 14 had to bring him a certain amount of gold every 3 months. And if they didn't give him the gold, they didn't get a copper token around their neck. But why would they need a copper token? Because any of the Indians found without the copper token had their hands cut off and bled to death. And things proceeded to get so bad that mass suicides began amongst the Arawak people. Arawak mothers and fathers had to make awful decisions in order to save their children and infants from the Spaniards. The Arawaks resorted to using cassava to poison themselves and their children to not have to face the Spaniards. And for anyone who doesn't know, cassava is a tuberous root vegetable that has to be thoroughly soaked before it is ingested, otherwise it is concentrated cyanide. It had only been 2 years since Christopher Columbus and his men arrived on this island in Haiti, and in that 2 years, half of the over 250,000 native people there were dead. And yet there are still people in this country who will actively try to convince me that we still need to thoroughly hang on to having and celebrating Christopher Columbus Day.
Oh, you don't seem autistic to me. That's because I'm really hot. You're not supposed to say that. Oh, did I say something socially inappropriate? My bad. How very non-autistic of me.
Spoon theory is less like this and more like this. Let me explain spoon theory in my way. This is a neurotypical person's day. All these nice silver spoons. Oh, that's bullshit. So this is having a chronic illness. These are our spoons. This is our chaos of energy. But it doesn't necessarily get the task done that we need it to. Sometimes we get lucky and we get like a shitty plastic spoon and we get to eat that bowl of cereal. We are trying to make the best out of what we have. Eat a bowl of cereal with this, can you? No, you fucking can't. This is what it's like day to day with a chronic illness. If we have a straw instead of a spoon, we can drink the milk, but we can't eat the cereal. I have the energy to drive to work, but then not do the work. And it's not because we're lazy. Let's try this in practice. We've got our cereal. With the tools that you have, you've got your spoon, to scoop it out, do the task you need to do every day. Easy peasy. But maybe I wake up with a straw. And how am I supposed to eat cereal with a straw? I can't scoop. Oh, maybe I can. All in all, I can drink the milk. I can get out of bed but not make the bed. Maybe I wake up with a toothpick. I can slowly manage to do the task by hooking the Cheerios in the toothpick. But that seems like a waste of energy, huh? It's gonna take so much longer because our energy is different. Because we're dealing with this chronic illness or this mental illness that we don't know how to control. Some days, we have a lot of energy that can do that one fucking task really, really well. Those are ladle days. I'm not coining that, but maybe I should. When our energy for the day is candles, when our tools don't feel right, the energy is weird, the vibe is weird, I don't want to eat cereal with a candle. This energy doesn't help me do the task that I need to do today. And this is intrusive thinking. These are our bad thoughts. These are our bad days. These are our doctors telling us you don't look sick. This is the bullshit. That's the energy that we live with every single fucking day. That's the no fucks. We don't have spoons, we got fucking tongs. And yeah, we can get some cereal out of it, but is that worth it? Yes, because that's all we have to work with. This is why
we have to stop treating queerness as if it is not something that is complex and nuanced, because the people who I see normally doing this the most are colored people, and it's been very frustrating because when we are not treating queerness as a nuanced concept, often we are ignoring the privileges that are afforded, you know, white queer people, white trans people, etc. And they get really mad when you bring this up because it's like, oh my gosh, you can't bring up the fact that I have privilege because I'm also XYZ marginalized identity. And I'm like, oh my gosh, good for you. Okay. That's wonderful. That does not excuse you from the privilege that you hold in these communities. And I think because, and I've said this several times before, because white people really can only understand the world in terms of not privileged and privileged, and they see no gray area, when you come to them in a state they view as not privileged, and you tell them that they still have privilege, that, you know, their experiences are not the end-all be-all of queerness, they get really, really upset because they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear the fact that they are not the epitome of marginalization and they are not the forefronts of a movement, because that, in the end of the day, does not benefit them. It gives them nothing. If they cannot be at the forefront, if they cannot colonize the movement, if they cannot have it all, they don't want anything at all. And we've seen this time and time again. The moment an opposing force threatens them, they will turn on you in a heartbeat. The moment that your interests collide, they rely on people of color to do all the work for them, and then they'll just turn on us again when the work is done.